Welcome back, filmmakers. This is Nick with August Sun Productions here. Today, I'll be diving into Adobe After Effects for both those who are just getting started and those who want to sharpen their skills. So, let's open up the application here. Okay, so now that we've got our application opened up, we're going to want to click on New Project and then New Composition. So here I have width and height, 1920 by 1080 pixels. The frame rate, now the frame rate should match your footage's frame rate, the frame rate at which you shot your footage at. So if you shot at 60 frames per second with your footage, you should have 60 frames per second here. Now, if you don't know what frame rate you shot your footage at, don't worry, I'll be going over how you can actually see that in Adobe After Effects. Now we have the duration, which is 30 seconds. That's completely fine. It could even be 20 or 10, doesn't matter. Background color doesn't really matter either because we're gonna have footage over our background. So click OK. And now we've created our new composition. So that brings us to our project panel, which is right over here. Now in our project panel, you can see that we actually have our composition automatically inside once we've created it. So I'm going to double click here. And now I have a file path to my footage. So I'm going to get my footage here. And I'm going to shift select my logo. Open to add. And now we have everything in our project panel. So to bring us back to that frame rate, we have the frame rate listed right here next to our metadata tab right up here. And we have 23.976 frames per second, which is perfect. Now, if your footage is, say, 60 frames per second and your composition's at 23.976 frames per second, don't worry, because you could just go here to the timeline, make sure that's selected, and go up to composition settings, and you can see here that's at 23.976 frames per second. So if your footage is 60 frames per second, you want to match that and just click that here. Now that's not my case, so I'm going to cancel that out. But now you notice we have the same exact frame rate. Now if you don't see this frame rate option, what you want to do is just right click on this top tab here, go to columns, and just make sure that frame rate has a check mark next to it. And I just turned it off, but I'll put it back on. Perfect. So now let's click and drag our footage to the timeline. Click and drag. And now I'll also bring my logo on top. Now obviously that's way too big, so what you want to do is press the keyboard shortcut S and you bring up the scale property. So I'm going to shrink this down so that you can see it. And that's a perfect size. So now there's an essential concept you need to know to effectively use After Effects, and that is keyframes. Keyframes allow you to control the properties of layers and effects over time. So a keyframe can be kind of thought of as a sort of marker. So instead of explaining it, let me show you how it works. So let's say I want this logo to come in from the left and rest sort of center here. Maybe a bit lower, like that. So what you want to do is make sure your logo is selected and click P on your keyboard for the position, and then press this little icon here. That is the stopwatch, and what that basically does is it records your keyframes. So if I click the stopwatch, I've just created a keyframe, and let's drag the playhead here. This is called the playhead, by the way. Let's drag the playhead to about 2 seconds. And then I'm going to adjust my position property, like so. And you'll see it automatically created a new keyframe because the stopwatch is already selected anytime you move it in a different period of time. So if I move it here, it's gonna keep on moving. So I'll just Command Z to undo that. But now we've created this basic motion. So that is essentially what keyframes do. Now there's a way to make better use of them. So if I go here, you can see the motion's a bit robotic, a bit choppy, not too smooth. So what I want to do is have this kind of start to slow down, or have the appearance of slowing down as it eases in to its ending position. So what I'm going to do is right click and go to Keyframe Assistant, and I'll select Easy Ease In. And so what this basically does is, as it comes into its ending position, it eases into it. And that looks much better. So now another thing you can do is, if you want to make the animation faster, you simply just have to drag this keyframe closer to your starting keyframe. And there we go, much faster. Now here's an extra little tip. This icon right here affects the motion blur. Now motion blur is basically when you see something moving and it gets a bit blurry because it's moving so fast. So when you pause on something, it should be blurred out. Like you could see in my arm right here that it's moving, so it's a little bit more blurry than the rest of the shot. So if you want to apply that to your graphic, what you do is just click on this motion blur icon here and check that off, and now you can see we have a motion blurred logo. Great, so now we have a smooth animation here. Now if I want to apply this to different properties, such as the scale, I could do that as well. I could have this start at 12% and come here, animate it at 31%. And you could do that for opacity or any other property you want to use. But since I just wanted to come in and not get bigger, I'm going to simply click on this stopwatch, and that will remove the keyframes for the scale property. Let's put it back to 12%. And there we go, it's back to normal. So now that we have our logo animation and our footage behind it, let's add a title. So what you have to do is simply go up here to the type tool in the toolbar, click that, and now just click anywhere you want your text to go. So if I click here, it will go right here. So I'll type in movie title. And if you want to edit this title, just go to Window and make sure the Character tab is open. And then I'll change the font to, let's say, Copperplate. And I'll change the size. Maybe make that bigger. And I'll change the stroke width. Actually, maybe I'll put it back to 2. And you could actually switch out the colors of your stroke and your fill. So if you want the fill to be red, just go here, and now your fill's red and your stroke is white. You could also change the color completely by going here. Maybe you want this light blue. Doesn't really match too well, but just for example. Let's say maybe you want to change the solid fill color to black, or maybe some kind of gray. Might be a bit nicer with this scene. And the next thing you want to do is select it again. And now we'll go to the Align tab, make sure that's selected. Click that, and I'll close this panel so we can see it better. Close the two panels. And now you could actually align your title to a different place. So I'll align this left, I'll go here. Align center, we'll go here, and so on. So now I actually want to adjust this even more. So I'll just click P on the keyboard here with my title selected, and that activates the position property. And maybe I want to bring it on this side more. And you can actually select this selection tool with keyboard shortcut V, or just select it in your toolbar, and actually just drag it to where you want it to be. So I want to put it right here. And that's perfect. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth about all the effects of After Effects because there are just so many and it's a huge topic. But what I will do is show you a basic example. So let's go over to the Window tab here and let's click on Effects and Presets. Now I'm going to type in a simple effect, the glow effect. So I'll type in glow, and now I'll click on this and drag it onto my title. And now you can see we've created a bit of a glow here. Maybe I'll raise this up to 100 for the threshold. The radius could be 200, 201. Glow intensity, we'll bump that up as well. And now you can actually see there's a bit of a glow here, which is nice. So if you want to zoom in and see more of your image, all you have to do is use the scroll wheel on your mouse to go forward or back. So I'll bring this in, and then I'm going to select my hand tool here, which is keyboard shortcut H. And then I'm going to drag it here, and now I could look at my title and see how much it changed. Go back to my selection tool with V. And now I could click this button here. This FX button allows you to turn off your effect and turn it back on. So you could toggle between them and see the difference. So as you can see, there's a lot of glow here. The glow is coming off. There's a bit of green on the wall. And perfect. Now we've created a nice little effect here. Now I want to go over one of the most essential tools in the After Effects toolkit, and that is the pen tool. The pen tool could be activated by selecting keyboard shortcut G on your keyboard, or you could simply just click on this icon here to activate it. So my goal here is to basically make this part of the image visible and then make this part of the image blacked out. So what I want to do is click on the footage layer here, and I'll start drawing points around my image. And then once I go back to the starting point, I'll have closed the mask out. So now you can see this part is not visible, but this part of the image is because I've masked around it. Now, if you want to make the mask more smooth, as you can see here, it's a bit rough. Simply go here to your footage layer, expand that, expand the mask, and then go to the selected mask here and go over to mask feather, and you can make that much more smooth. All right, let's play this back and see how it looks. Perfect. Now, as you can probably tell, there's so much to learn about After Effects, but now you understand the basic layout and have seen how some of the tools can be used. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to post some comments about what type of content you'd like to see next. Until next time.